I declined, but it's a legendary story. It was obvious, dude, really. Fans were left wondering what had become of the chart-topping superstar Ja Rule when he disappeared from Hollywood virtually overnight. Applause. Hey, what's the name of my mother? Ja Rule, whose real name was Jeffrey Bruce Atkins, was once unstoppable. Developed a multi-million-dollar enterprise, dominated the charts, and sold millions of records. But there were many problems associated with celebrity. Music, from his label collapsing to his violent fight with 50 Cent. The Fyre Festival followed, which was the last straw that made his name a joke. At last, he discusses the events that altered everything. The tale of Ja Rule starts in Hollis, Queens, a place that gave birth to legendary hip-hop artists long before he was born. On February 29, 1976, Jeffrey Bruce Atkins moved in with grandparents who were devout Jehovah's Witnesses. No departure, no rap music, the rules were unchangeable. Jeffrey, however, chafed beneath the structure. After his mother abandoned the faith when he was 12, he was left to fend for himself on the streets, where he had to be strong to survive. He got into fights, peddled drugs, and discovered early on that the world outside his front door required slyness rather than obedience. His family once faced a 10-day eviction notice, which made him work even harder to keep them afloat. Education took a back seat. In the 11th grade, he left school. He would, however, receive his GED in 2012 decades later. Neighbors, co-workers, members, and occasionally even remarks on social media. Today's visitors are no different. Each has had to defend their identity for various reasons, or as some say, some songs provided an escape. He changed his name to Ja Rule in 1994 and joined forces with Chris Black and O1 to establish Cash Money Click. After Chris Black's incarceration, the band disbanded after signing a short-term contract with TVT Records. Ja Rule remained close to Irv Gotti, a producer whose intuition would shape the next phase of his existence, in spite of the setback. He joined then unknown artists Jay-Z and DMX, who would later become Titans, on Mick Geronimo's Time to Build in 1995. Ja Rule demonstrated a talent for melody and hooks, even in these formative years, fusing street stories with an attention-grabbing voice. Murder Incorporated was created by Irv Gotti. In 1997, Ja Rule became the focal point of the label. When he co-wrote Jay-Z's song Can I Get A, which was originally meant to be his solo debut, his hook-writing skills took off. There was growing momentum, a big tick job spin, now it's dropping. His debut solo single, Holla Holla, was released in March 1999 and peaked at number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100. Vanetti, the follow-up, peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and went platinum. The Queen's street child had suddenly shown up. He was no longer merely getting by, he was attracting a lot of attention and bridging the gap between mainstream appeal and hardcore hip-hop. His ascent, and ultimately, the decisions that may either solidify or undermine his legacy would be determined by that fine balance between street credibility and business acumen. I used to take them out of town, and the music was always there. That used to be a lyrical exercise for me. Hence, from New York to Skankity, we would rhyme. He was frequently in difficulties due to his truancy. With a devoted producer in Irv Gotti, a distinctive musical sound, and the first taste of mainstream acclaim, Ja Rule had laid the groundwork for superstardom by the end of the 1990s. However, the upcoming chapter would examine if that foundation could endure the harsh limelight, fame, and financial pressures of the entertainment industry. Ja Rule had transitioned from street reputation to mainstream dominance by the year 2000. His early success had created opportunities, but maintaining it was now the true test, which he tackled with a keen sense of strategy. He changed from a harsh Queens rapper to a musical force that could rule both radio and arenas with his second album, Rule 336, released in 2000. With 276,000 copies sold in its first week of release, the album debuted at number 1 and went triple platinum, proving that Ja Rule had figured out the secret to crossover success. His weapon was cooperation. Songs like Put It On Me with Lil Mo and Vita and Between Me and You with Christina Milian were more than just hits. They were declarations. Ja Rule had the ability to take street stories and turn them into catchy hooks that would appeal to both die-hard fans and general audiences. Later, when Lil Mo claimed she wasn't given enough credit or money, Put It On Me in particular would cause controversy, exposing the backstage conflict that frequently accompanied his triumph. You accused him, I believe, of not paying you for the recordings or the video, or something similar. I can't recall what it was. They received no compensation. Hold on for a moment. What? But not even publishing. Later, I received a 2.5. He became a mainstream rap powerhouse with his third album, Pain Is Love 2001, Always on Time with Ashanti, which became Ashanti's breakthrough single, and the remix of Jennifer Lopez's I'm Real, which ruled the Hot 100 for 5 non-consecutive weeks, were the two chart toppers that resulted from its #1 debut and 361,000 copies sold in its first week. Fake goons and attractive women both desired the same thing. Mesmerize Again with Ashanti was one of his top 2 singles, and The Last Temptation 2002 came next, peaking at #4 on the Billboard 200. He had a formula: romance, melody, and boldness from the streets. This combination caused the cash registers to ring and the arena to fill. However, there was conflict during the Golden Age. Purists started to doubt his sincerity, saying that his kind demeanor undermined the unvarnished edge that had made him unique. At the same time, rivals, detractors, and the industry at large took notice of the success. As much of a brand as a rapper, Ja Rule was now subject to increased scrutiny and demands. He was more than just a Queens rapper by 2002. He had a tried-and-true formula and was a commercial force. However, that precise formula, which was intended to maximize appeal and revenue, was creating tensions that money couldn't settle. He had the globe thanks to his success, but it also presented him with decisions between touring and acting, credibility and business, which would determine whether or not his rule would last. The next phase of Ja Rule's life would demonstrate the fallout from those decisions, as rivalry, celebrity, and as a single Hollywood decision would start to destroy everything he had worked so hard to achieve. Ja Rule had established himself as a dominant force in the business world by the early 2000s. The charts were dominated by his catchy rap. He became well known thanks to his collaborations with stars like Jennifer Lopez and Ashanti, and his albums sold in the hundreds of thousands. Beneath the surface of this success, however, a number of crucial choices would decide whether his career would continue to rise or start to decline. One of the most important crossroads was provided by acting. Ja Rule had starred in movies like Half Past Dead 2002 and Turn It Up 2000. Even if his roles were small, they hinted to Hollywood's unrealized potential. His appearance in the 2001 film The Fast and the Furious gave him recognition outside of the music industry and suggested a different route to long-term success and fortune. It was a pivotal moment when John Singleton asked him to play a significant part in the 2003 Fast 2 Furious sequel. Singleton envisioned Ja Rule as one of the main characters in the movie, a part that may have given him a long-term acting career. However, Ja Rule's decision was a reflection of his attitude at the time. He put short-term financial gain ahead of long-term positioning. Compared to a $500,000 acting part, touring and album marketing offered significantly larger short-term revenues. And he rejected Singleton, giving the role to Ludacris, who would go on to earn millions and establish himself as a recurrent character in one of Hollywood's most lucrative series. I mean, the narrative is, out there. The story is legendary. Ja Rule later justified the choice, claiming that it was clear from a comparison of the film offer and touring revenue. But, in retrospect, this was a lost opportunity for diversification, a choice that strengthened a tendency to put short-term satisfaction ahead of long-term strategic viability. At the same time, Ja Rule was a top target in the competitive hip-hop scene due to his commercial success. During these years, his long-running rivalry with 50 Cent heated up, becoming more intense in the studio and in the eyes of the public. The conflict stemmed from personal altercations and street-level disputes, including instances in which both artists' associates engaged in violent altercations. There was an altercation between you guys and one of 50/50's pals in the first portion. Is that even true? This is the actual version of that tale. By 2003, the rivalry had spread to the point where Ja Rule's street cred was being questioned in industry comments, social media attacks, and diss recordings. Blood in My Eye 2003 and other albums were intended to demonstrate his toughness. However, they also made clear how severely his reputation was being attacked, which compelled him to return to a harder aesthetic in order to protect it. In order to pursue immediate revenue from touring while contending with a well-known opponent, the Hollywood ruling and the 50C quarrel came together in ways that started to undermine his dominance. Ja Rule created a conflict between credibility and financial success. The public and industry closely examined this tension. Opportunities to secure his career were lost, and obstacles that could have been strategically handled instead became more intense and accompanied by a lot of unfavorable remarks that will never truly comprehend failure of any kind. By 2004, Ja Rule's career's golden age was already beginning to show signs of cracking due to the decisions he made at that time, including turning down potentially career-defining opportunities. Roles and starting a public feud with 50 Cent signaled the start of a downfall that would soon go beyond music, resulting in criminal probes, jail time, and eventually the collapse of his enterprise. In retrospect, these years show how rapidly momentum may change, even for a top-tier celebrity. Hollywood prospects were being lost and Ja Rule's battle with 50 Cent was still going strong, but another storm was subtly building, this one with much more dire repercussions. Law authorities took notice of Murder in Sin recordings because of their popularity and success, as well as the enormous revenue they generated from tours and record sales. Federal and state authorities were looking into the label for possible connections to illegal behavior by the beginning of 2003. The main subject was infamous Queens mobster Kenneth Supreme McGriff, whose activities were thought to have entangled with the funds of Murder Incorporated. A legal nightmare that would follow Ja for years began on January 3, 2003 when FBI and NYPD agents searched the label's offices. The label's progress was damaged by the probe itself. Ja Rule's music empire was left exposed at a time when his fame could have supported additional growth when Def Jam declined to renew Murder Incorporated's distribution deal out of concern that it would become embroiled in ongoing federal scrutiny. The raid served as a warning that legal issues well beyond of his control, rather than competitors or lost opportunities, may upend the universe he had created on tours, hits, and brand awareness. Ja Rule experienced yet another personal legal dilemma in July 2007. Police allegedly discovered a .40 caliber handgun under the seat of Lil Wayne's Maybach when they pulled it over after a performance in New York. D4J Arl described 4 police cars around his automobile and limiting its movement, claiming the halt was a setup. Despite his objections, he agreed to a plea agreement for possessing a gun rather than take a chance on a trial that could have made his circumstances worse. He's on the bus. He's currently on the bus. Go, go, go. They began, then ceased to process me. To get Lil Wayne, I ran out of the Pret. After 10 and 20 minutes, Lil Wayne appeared. The event was a watershed, showing how his recognition, renown, and fortune made him a target in ways he was not always able to control. The legal issues were exacerbated by financial mismanagement. Jewel neglected to disclose more than $3 million in income to the IRS between 2004 and 2006. He was given a 28-month jail sentence for tax evasion by federal authorities in July 2011, which was to run simultaneously with his state sentence for weapons possession. He lost not only riches but also the security that comes with it as a result of the financial penalties and back taxes consuming a large portion of his earnings during his best years. To regain your chain. Are you aware of what I mean? This is a story I've heard. You've heard the tale. It's also foolish. Do you understand what I mean? For this reason, I think that this indicates that he is skilled at what he does. However, I call him MC Gusto, and he tells stories. Ja Rule endured the full repercussions of his previous decisions while incarcerated for almost 2 years. Significant changes in the industry occurred at the same time as the period away from music and the spotlight. By the time he was published in May 2013, the world he had previously dominated estimated had changed due to new artists, new trends, and a shifting business model. However, he made a personal accomplishment while incarcerated, obtaining his GED, a silent reminder that learning and development may occur even in the face of collapse. This time frame marks the beginning of Ja Rule's career. His resources and momentum were depleted by a string of high-profile legal inquiries, personal blunders, and financial oversight errors. The consequences foreshadowed the difficulties he would face as he tried to regain his position in music and beyond, and they would affect every decision he made after that, from economic endeavors to public opinion. Ja Rule was confronted with a harsh reality following his release in 2013. His wealth had drastically decreased from the millions he had commanded, the music industry had changed, and his power had diminished. In an effort to rehabilitate, he became an entrepreneur and used his notoriety to launch new businesses. Fans got behind-the-scenes look at Unruly, the highs and lows of becoming a man, a 2014 book. In 2015, the MTV reality show Follow the Rules aimed to remind viewers that he was still relevant and charismatic. We should run it back. Give it another go. Go back. Take two. However, a pattern emerged from his attempts to succeed in business. Preparation was frequently outpaced by ambition. In 2004, he introduced the Irvin Jeffrey apparel line, and in 2006, he introduced the Mojito, a liquor brand. Endeavors with little effect. There would be more ambitious undertakings in the future, but none would have the same scope or impact as the Fyre Festival. Ja Rule and businessman Billy McFarland co-founded Fyre Media Incorporated in 2017 to market an upscale music festival in the Bahamas. The festival was promoted as a premium, elite event that included private villas, fine dining, and performances by well-known performers. The event actually fell apart in a dramatic way. A meticulously planned photo became a viral catastrophe when attendees arrived to discover incomplete tents, limited food, and logistical turmoil. Pursuing dubious endeavors. The abbreviation is that. I wanted to do something wonderful, and I had a fantastic vision for it. Do you understand what I mean? Yo man, they stole my money for Firefest, man. You guys continue to complain. I want this, is lying. I'm going just be honest. The consequences were severe and swift. Over $100 million in class action lawsuits were filed by investors and participants. Even though Ja Rule was eventually exonerated of any criminal charges in 2019, his connection to the debacle was irrevocable. Supporters filed a lawsuit. Public opinion changed. One of the most infamous falls in festival history was now associated with the man who had ruled charts and sold out venues. They didn't even desire the money they were paying for. The episode demonstrated the risks of using celebrities for business endeavors without adequate oversight and due diligence, as they were settling for things like concert tickets and coming to see me in person. Ja Rule persisted in his entrepreneurial endeavors in spite of the catastrophe, taking lessons from his mistakes and looking for chances that fit with his brand. Targeting enthusiasts rather than casual consumers, he established luxury alcohol labels, Rosevine Cellars Wine in 2023 and Amber and Opal Whiskey in 2025. He also started Flipkick, an NFT platform where he sold a painting inspired by Fyre Media for $122,000. These actions demonstrated a more methodical strategy that struck a balance between innovation and practicality. The post-prison phase of Ja Rule's life highlights a crucial tension, despite the lingering shadow of prior transgressions. While ambition and vision can yield significant benefits, poor timing, relationships, and miscalculations can have disastrous results. There was more to the Fyre Festival than just a financial setback. It served as a public education on branding, responsibility, and the high stakes of celebrity enterprise. It demonstrated that preparation, planning, and a long-term strategy are more important than the influence of a celebrity. An acquaintance from childhood who works for your company, because we will pursue you if you do. Suppose you are launching a narcotics business, laundering money, or anything similar. They attempted to impose this on us. They claimed that because we had X amount, we were launching an enterprise. Ja Rule showed resiliency throughout it all by using setbacks as a springboard for introspection, education, and adjustment. The stage was shifting. He had to change with the industry or risk falling behind, a challenge that would shape his legacy and the next phase of his career. Ja Rule has been gradually making a comeback after years of disappointments, including legal disputes and the Fyre Festival debacle. His net worth is expected to be about $4 million by 2025, while it was once close to $30 million. He is still active, though, and is committed to regaining prominence on his own terms. He expressed a mixture of regret and resolve on social media when he announced in early 2024 that he was in full album mode for his first new project in more than 10 years. His career is still shaped by his legal background. Because of his criminal history, he was refused entry into the United Kingdom in February 2024, just before his 25th anniversary Sunrise tour. A sharp reminder of the lingering effects of past decisions. Ja Rule has continued to be an entrepreneur in spite of this, using smart ventures, live appearances, and royalties. He introduced luxury alcohol brands Amber and Opal Whiskey in 2025, and Rosevine Cellars Wine in 2023, along with Flipkick, an NFT platform, focusing on specialized markets while developing ideas for long-term sources of income. We should run it back. Try it again. Run it back. Take two. Family for all time. Ja Rule is still touring, creating, and experimenting today, demonstrating that even after facing personal and public setbacks, resiliency and adaptability can lead to a second act. Fame is no longer the only goal of his path. Learning from mistakes is the key.